Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Land and Rank reacting to the Hawkeyes. We are making daily videos starting now about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Some videos are going to be less than 5 minutes. Some videos are going to be more than 5 minutes. But today we are going through and breaking down Iowa's 34-7 win over Albany last night. A lot of mixed reactions to Mark Gronowski's first game as a Hawkeye. So we're going to go through the full game highlights. We're going to break down some stats. We're going to see what people are saying about this win. And we're just going to break down through it. So let's get straight into the highlights. Iowa versus Albany. It's all coming up. This is Landon Talks About the Hawks.
Touchdown, Iowa! Down the sideline, goodbye! Touchdown, Iowa! For the end zone, but he will win! Touchdown, Iowa!
Alrighty, so we got 12 minutes of Iowa football highlights to react to, and that's a good thing because Iowa made a lot of the plays in this game. Opening up on the first drive, Iowa chooses to receive, and we see Kamari Moulton. Now, Kamari Moulton ended up exiting the game and would not return with a shoulder injury. It appeared he was in a sling. Hopefully he's okay. You'll see later on, though, our backup running backs did great. Gronowski got off to an okay start. His first two passes. This first drive looked very good. On the first three plays, a run, pass, run. And then here's where Gronowski, you see his feel for the pocket. Beautiful job of escaping a tight pocket and gaining about 5 or 6 yards past Iowa quarterbacks, will just get sacked. So nice to see Mark Gronowski moving the ball down the field. And here on this 3rd and 2, Gronowski does his job. He finds a wide open Zach Ortworth. So he started the game 2 for 3 for about 13 yards-ish, so not too bad. Yeah, 14 yards. Now, Gronowski, this is one of those plays where you just see him get a design QB keeper, get right behind Logan Jones, and gain about 7 yards, and that's exactly what you want to see. Now, here you're going to see a quick handoff to the man, Kamari Moulton, and he makes his way all the way down to the 13. Now, they're going to skip a play where Gronowski has a wide-open Sam Phillips and overthrows him, but here on this 3rd and 7 is another really bad play. He gets Terrell Washington, and this is where we see some of Mark Gronowski just showing those pregame jitters. So Iowa ends up only converting a field goal on their first drive after they had 2 opportunities, I believe, to potentially score a touchdown. Now, here on the second drive, this was probably Gronowski's worst play of the game, if not that Sam Phillips play. He gets sacked without even going down. He's a very tough guy to get down, I believe. He's 235 pounds. So you see Mark Gronowski going down in the pocket there. That counts as a sack. And again, we watch this replay. This is just what I want to see out of Mark. Get the ball out of your hands instead of just sitting there and allowing yourself to get sacked. So Gronowski runs himself into a 3rd down and 18, and you just see he just got nowhere to go. Tries to run out of the pocket. I don't like some of this running. I think he's a good runner, but I think at the same time he needs to be very, 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 very careful with what he does. So we see some really quickness out of the Albany team. This was the weird play. Albany's quarterback slid too early. Iowa's defense got Albany's first 2 drives to be a punt. So I find that interesting here. We flipped that real quick, sorry. Right there, look at him. He slides early. Iowa defense gets away with an early play. Albany would convert on that 4th down. Here, as you're going to see, they'll just hand it right. They faked it, and the quarterback gets it. That got me too, both times. Iowa thought they got him on a handoff, but just a QB keeper gets the whole Iowa defense. Jack Shields looked pretty good for a 4-8 Albany team and for his first start in a year and a half, but then Iowa gets a stop here on their second drive of the game with a four play right there execution. And so Albany would get the ball back late in the quarter after another 3-and-out by the Hawks. And you just see Albany begin to drive the ball down the field. Start of the second quarter, and this was Iowa's worst defensive drive all night. Iowa, we will see later their final defensive numbers, but this was where Albany gained 65 yards on this drive. And Jack Shields just looked really good. He looked comfortable. Iowa's defensive line not really doing well. And you just see TJ Hall late there on that play, getting all the way down to the 10 against an FCS team. And watch this again. Look, Jack Shields, TJ Hall, he's backing up. And then boom, that wide receiver's right there, just missing out on that coverage. And here on this 2nd and 8, they're going to swing it down for a short 3rd down. And this 3rd down play was, I really think, when Iowa kind of had probably the worst play of the game here. So 3rd and 7, they got a false start. Jack Shields finds a man that was just late by Zach Lutzmer, and that's going to be an Albany touchdown. So the Albany Great Danes were at once leading the Iowa Hawkeyes. The former 4-8 FCS team is beating a constantly ranked Iowa team in the Big Ten, and this is where, as Iowa fans, we had a lot of concerns, but Mark Gronowski responds. This, in my opinion, was Iowa's best offensive drive of the game. It was a lot of running, but we got to see Xavier Williams, a freshman running back, get his first 2 collegiate carries, and this one was a big one. I believe a 24 or 5-yard gain there to get the Hawkeyes down. And one thing I want to point out was that Iowa did not kick a field goal tonight inside the 10-yard line, actually inside the 15. Iowa had a lot of struggles last year with that, converting in the red zone, and we're going to continue to see Iowa run the ball here on this drive. That is number 8, Terrell Washington, and you see Gronowski on a 2nd and 5 picking up it with his legs. He's such a hard guy to bring down, and I love to see that athleticism from Gronowski. And on a 1st and goal, they give it to Xavier Williams, and we got our first Hawkeye touchdown of the year. Iowa responds to Albany's touchdown with a nice rushing touchdown, and the freshman Xavier Williams, I truly believe with Kamari Moulton out that this could be the next Caleb Johnson for the Hawkeyes. We're going to see what he does later in this game, but Iowa with their first touchdown of the year, it's always a great side. So the Hawkeyes get a 4-and-out for you, Albany, and now we're going to see some more of Terrell Washington. But again, like I said, Iowa finding a way to convert when they're in the red zone. We remember that Iowa State game last year when Cade McNamara was terrible. There is Xavier Williams, his biggest gain of the night. I believe this was a 50 or so yard rush. I believe it was about a 49-yard rush there. And watch this again. Williams, he just gets that ball and he finds that gap, looking at the A gap up there, going to go on that outside quarter. And I believe if that guy would not have tracked him down, he would have had a nice rushing touchdown. Now, Iowa, very, very, very unlike Kirk Ferentz, goes for it here on a 4th down. As you see, Gronowski gets stuffed at the 2. So Iowa puts himself in a situation where they get in 4th downs. This looks like Iowa State game last year where you get down in the goal line. We talked about converting in the end zone. And guess what? Gronowski's going to throw it. Caden Weegan with the 2nd Iowa touchdown of the day. And congratulations to Mark Gronowski for his first passing touchdown, and Caden Weegan with his first career receiving touchdown. I told you I want to see more of Caden Weegan in this offense. He was listed at starting wide receiver this week. We want to see more out of Caden. He's fast. I don't think we did any jet sweeps tonight, but then you just continue to see this Iowa run game. I believe Iowa only had 1 rush for negative yards tonight. Terrell Washington did a great job, and Gronowski on a 3rd and 1 just picking it up with his legs. That was Gronowski's nicest run of the game. I believe that was about a 16-yard rush. Got to see Gronowski still not throwing the ball too much. Kirk really liked to run it, but I like to see Gronowski's athleticism because the difference between him and Sully is he's a lot bigger than Sully. Sully was more injury prone because he was lighter and maybe he was quicker, but I think Gronowski is much more physical, and we get to see there a nice little dump down for a 4th down and a tush push. Iowa does their job with the big quarterback Gronowski. He's like a hybrid for me between Brendan Sullivan and Deacon Hill, with weight size and with the way he plays. Obviously, Deacon Hill was not a Division I level quarterback, but I think he kind of reminds me of a combination with him with his athleticism. So we see Iowa driving down in the second half. I forgot to say it was halftime, 17-7. Iowa's first offensive drive. So Iowa got the ball right before the end of the second half, end of the first half, but that didn't really count. They just kneeled it. So this is really Iowa's third consecutive drive where they go ahead and score. And you see Gronowski's best pass of the day on a 3rd down and 10. And Gronowski with a QB keeper. But here's where Gronowski goes down with cramps, and he would not return to the game after the next drive. Just cramping up was Mark Gronowski, and I think at this point in the game he had done enough. You maybe would have wanted to see him had more passing, but keep Gronowski healthy, and his first career rushing touchdown, and the Hawkeyes with 21 unanswered points real quick and real fast. And you get to see Jack Shields again being lit up by this Iowa defense here in the third quarter. Iowa's defense at one point, Albany had only had 1 total yards of offense before Albany's final drive of the game. They had less than 50 yards of offense in the second half, which was amazing to see, and less than 200 yards total. Get to see a nice pass there by Jack Shields. Iowa's secondary a little bit questionable. We'll talk about it later. But let's continue to see how Albany would respond to this Iowa defense. And you just see that Iowa secondary, they're good enough to make some incompletions, force some incompletions when it means it. So Mark Gronowski would come back in the game, but it would not go too well for him. He would start cramping again and go down here, I believe, after or one of these plays up here, he would go down. And that's just not what you want to see. Mark Gronowski is a solid quarterback. You want to see him have some success. But he was just cramping up all night, and that is the first loss of yards for the Hawkeyes on a rush. They did a really great job of rushing tonight. You'll see it over 300 yards of rushing, and you'll see another nice rusher by Terrell Washington. A lot of rushes after Gronowski really came out of the game, which is going to happen here in a second. This was the play where Gronowski cramped up. He fell, and that was one of those plays where, Gronowski's footing just was not good. I don't know if he was nervous or what, but we got to see Hank Brown, and Hank Brown got lit up here, but we're going to see one of my favorite special teams plays of the game. We're going to see another one with Sam Phillips' punt return, but Hank Brown gets cooked, but then Drew Stevens buries a 55-yard field goal. Would have been good from 60+. Just all trust in Drew. Drew was 2 for 2 on the season so far. Really good. Drew missed his first field goal last year in Week 5, and we see the second Iowa sack of the night. Iowa's defense, I told you, played so amazing tonight in that second half. Really locked down this Albany team after they scored that touchdown. This is what you like to see. Iowa's defense is going to be good again, folks. We weren't worried about that. We were really worried about the offense, and I think the offense is still a concern. But I think rewatching these highlights after last night, this Iowa team is good. I think we overreacted a tiny bit, and I can see it in the way they're playing right now. I mean, just even rewatching these highlights tonight, you see even a guy like Hank Brown completes his first pass as a Hawkeye to Seth Anderson. And Seth Anderson, we saw 9 different receivers make different catches, and then we see Hank Brown leading a touchdown drive here. That is the freshman running back number 25, and you like to see different guys like that get into the game. Jazz Patterson coming in, he changed his number to number 4. Like to see that out of him. McNeil is number 25, that freshman running back. Got to get used to these new running backs. Jazz Patterson bearing his way down to the 2, and then we see Hank Brown get his first Iowa touchdown with a little tush push. Hank gets in there, and the Hawkeyes crack the 30 mark on U of Albany. We got to appreciate this to start, because we will go over in a second all of Iowa's past home openers since 2015, but one thing that I want to point out is Iowa put up more than 25 points per game. Brian Ferentz could not do that in the last 2 of his home openers, and so far we've seen a man out of Tim Lester put up 40 and 34 in his home opener. So the Hawkeyes are already averaging 34 points a year this season, which isn't terrible. I think a lot of people thought they were going to put up 50 or potentially even 60 points against the University of Albany, but that's just not like Iowa. Iowa would have had to score on almost every single drive for that to happen, and I just think this was a pre-game jitter game for Iowa. But we see their defense. Their defense was locked in the second half. I told you, Albany had 1 total yard at some point because Iowa was just pushing them backwards. But Iowa continued to play the Hawkeye way. This is probably the worst play of the game, potentially, for Iowa, besides those open throws. Hank Brown just fumbles the ball. Iowa maybe could have scored again. 144, I think Iowa just would have ran the ball up the middle with some of their backup offensive line in. But just, you see that right there? Iowa just not really, I just don't like this. A mishandled snap. Hank Brown, I assume he'll be our starter next year, so you just don't want to see that at Hank. You want to see the best with him. I don't know if that was his fault. You just see he kind of dropped that snap, and Albany fell on it, actually. Hank could not get to the ball, but that's not one turnover for Iowa. Iowa actually had 0 turnovers tonight, which was a rarity. Iowa's first time in a while they haven't had any turnovers. They had no 4th down stops. They had nothing. There's the last play of the game, and the Hawkeyes win 34-7 to improve to 1-0 on the season. They're going to take on the Iowa State Cyclones next week, who are already 2-0 and ranked, and beat North Dakota 55-7. We'll talk about it tomorrow and over the week as we preview it, but congratulations to Kirk, his 205th career win as a Big Ten head coach. Ties Woody Hayes. Let's break down some more. Alrighty, guys, going into what Mark Gronowski said during the postgame show, really impressed with his class to come on after cramping up, after only having 44 yards passing, and saying this. Just listen to this. This is still why I believe Mark Gronowski is the guy for the Iowa Hawkeyes. We've seen Cade McNamara, Spencer Petras, Deacon Hill, whoever, come in and blame other parts of the offense, saying we need to get better as a whole. But listen to Mark Gronowski talk for himself, because this is exactly how I feel after his first performance.
I'm disappointed in how I played today, but this season it's a whole journey. It's a whole long journey. Kind of keep improving every single week. Me and the receivers are going to continue to get better every single week. But I got to give a good shout out to our linemen this week. They played a great game through and through. I mean, over 300 yards rushing. Can't ask for much better than that. And X had an awesome game too. All our running backs did. So I'm happy on that side of things. But we got to pick it up on the passing game side.
Wow. That's stuff that you hear out of NFL quarterbacks. As a Broncos fan, this is the stuff I hear out of Bo Nix, blaming himself and then highlighting another part of the offense. And I will say Iowa's played absolutely spectacular on the offensive line tonight. That was amazing to see this. And Mark Gronowski just taking the blame for the offensive struggles. I love to see it out of Mark. He is truly a mature quarterback, and I believe there's so much better for him in week 2. Let's look at some stats for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Break down the total stats for this game here right now. Alrighty, now let's check out on ESPN some of the stats, player-wise and team-wise. Obviously, Iowa's only played one game, so the total season stats are correct. For the first game, obviously, 44 passing yards is terrible. 48 combined passing yards for the Iowa Hawkeyes as a team. That probably should rank last in the nation. Completion percentage, 53%, but Hank Brown had 100% completion rate. Just Xavier Williams, 122 yards. He's our player of the game. Jacob Gill with 13 yards. TJ Hall with 5 tackles. Looking at the rushing, very balanced. Terrell Washington with 68 yards, Jazz with 49. Mark got 39 himself. Jazz got 47. Kamari got 22. And McNeil got 14. And then you see Xavier Williams with that 122, 1 touchdown. See those 3 rushing touchdowns overall around the board. Receiving, Jacob Gill with 13 yards. Looking at it, Iowa targeted 9 different receivers tonight. Only guy that caught 2 passes was Seth Anderson. Kicking game pretty good. Looking at the team total for Iowa, obviously Iowa, that's not right. Iowa's not averaging 40 points a game. Obviously the Hawkeyes only averaging 34 points per game, and they did get 20 first downs, 14 rushing first downs, and 3 passing touchdowns. That's pretty good. And as you can see, the Hawkeyes have 4 total touchdowns this season. Ignore the ESPN stat. That's not true for the Hawkeyes. There was 5 combined touchdowns in the game today, but one of them went to Albany. These other ones are right. 48 combined net passing yards. Completion rate 9 for 16, not the best. They were 100% on 4th down tonight, 2 for 2, and they were 10 for 16 on 3rd down, 62% rate on 3rd down. That's really good. I want to see that continue going up. That's an offensive positivity for me. Rushing first down, 17. I told you 3 passing first downs. Looking at the passing game, not very good. Not very good, excuse me. They're just overall, you'd see, 1 sack for that 8-yard loss. Rushing attempts, 310 total rushing yards. Love to see that. That's an average of 5.8 yards per rush. That is really good in my opinion. Offense ran 70 total plays, 358 yards of offense. Really good. Returns, looking at the kick returns, were very nice. Punt returns, 2 punt returns for 63 yards. That is pretty good with an average punt return yards that of 30, what would that be? I guess 36.5. That's really good too. Kicking game was good. Only 2 penalties for 20 yards. Time of possession, they go about 36 minutes out of a 60-minute game. You like to see that. They had that 1 fumble, but that overall for me is really good. Looking back at the game here real quick, we got to talk about Albany's yards of offense because we always want to see how our defense did tonight. Our defense played pretty well in my opinion, but total yards, Albany only had 177 yards, and that for me was really impressive. Iowa only allowed 13 completions tonight for only 134 yards. You look at that and you say, man, that was pretty good on the Hawkeyes part. I think Iowa played a very good job on both halves of the ball. You look at University of Albany, only had their leading receiver tonight with 56 yards. That was Birdie. And you got to see the rushing game not get too many yards. I don't know if that stats on there with the total amount of rushing yards, but the University of Albany had 43 43 rushing yards, which is really good on 21 rush attempts compared to Iowa's 310. So really good overall. Love to see these stats of the Hawkeyes. Also, I like to see Iowa scored in every single quarter. They scored a touchdown in 3 out of the 4 quarters. So Iowa making sure that they get points in every single. One thing I wanted to put out there real quickly before we end the show was, let's not overreact about the way our Iowa team played. We look at the 2015 Iowa team, which went 12-0, the best team historically, record-wise, in Iowa history. Obviously, it could be said that they didn't play anyone, only playing 2 total ranked teams before the Big Ten Championship. They only won their home opener against FCS Illinois State, 31-14. So right there, they scored less points, allowed another touchdown. Look at 2016, Iowa's home opener against the University of, I believe it was Miami, Ohio. Iowa likes to play that Miami, Ohio team, and they did win 45-21, so more points allowed. Essentially the same type of a win. They won by 24. Iowa tonight won by 27. So 2017, though, they only won 24-3 against Josh Allen's Wyoming team. So a 21-point win, allowing less points. 2018, they actually had kind of the same game to me. This game was kind of the same to me. Stanley only put up 108 yards, and that 2018 was still pretty solid, going 9-4. So look at that 33-7 win against NIU. Miami of Ohio in 19 was 38-14. So Iowa won by less, allowed another touchdown, but scored a couple more points. Obviously, that COVID season, they lost the home opener 21. They beat a really good Indiana team. That was probably the best home opener we had in a while. That 22 team, which was probably the worst team Iowa's had the last 10 years, only beat Mark Gronowski's team 7-3. 23, Iowa played a Utah State team that was okay and only put up 24 points against them and allowed 2 touchdowns, only winning by 10. And obviously last year, the 40-0 win. So Iowa, not overreact. Do not overreact at all, because we look at the way Iowa responded against Iowa State in 2015, really beating them down in Cyclone Town. Same thing in 2016 at home. 2017, they had that great game in overtime. 2018, they had a nice home win. 2019, they had a close battle against the Cyclones in week 3. 21, Iowa State. This was the last time Iowa State was favored to beat Iowa. They won 27-17 on the road. Lost that game in 22, but in 23 responded with a nice 20-13 win. So Iowa is capable of beating Iowa State next week. We're going to not even touch at all into Iowa State until tomorrow. And throughout the week, we're going to preview. We're going to go through the past couple of games highlights. We're going to break down some Iowa State film. But I really hope you guys enjoyed tonight's video. I really, really hope you guys did. Please like and subscribe for more Iowa Hawkeyes content. We're going to be trying to make daily 4 to 5 minute updates every day about what's going on, any news, injury, any cool things you need to learn about the Iowa Hawkeyes. Overall, though, I would say that I would give this Iowa grade a C+, like our friends at Hawkeye Wire did. I think it was overall a mid-game. I wasn't expecting it to be this close. I think the Hawkeyes didn't play to their best. If this was a school grade, we would give it a C+, 76 out of 100. But hopefully the Hawkeyes are going to play better next week. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.